We'll start in 1 minute. Hi, Patty. Hi, everybody. Hi, Kathy. Okay, we're just going to give it a minute. Hey, Dolores. I know you can hear me. I whispered to myself before I start. Hi, Liz. I whisper so that... We'll see if that works. Hi, Barbara. I whisper so that I make sure I get everything going in time. Nope, that's not going to work, huh? This way? Oh, wait. I'm going to get you guys all in the right direction. Hi, Linda. Hi, Dolores. We'll see if that works. Oh, that might work. Hi, Diane. See, I knew that I would see you, so to speak. Hi, Shirley. Hi, Christina. Hi, Barbara. Hi, everybody. Welcome. It is a wonderful day. It's a wonderful night. It's a freezing night. Hey, Rosalie. Okay, so we all ready? It is 7:02, so I'm going to start. Just do a few things. Thank you. I will try as I'm going to answer your questions as I'm painting. I don't always get a chance to. But I will tell you, after class, I will go back and I will answer every single question, even if I answered you during the video. So this way, if you get hung up on something or something comes up that you just want to know a quick answer to, you don't have to go back through the whole video. The answer will be there. But while I'm going, I will try to answer you as we're going. All right, ask any questions you need. I'm happy to answer anything you need. Okay, so apparently on the prep, I gave you all the hearts and I gave you all the pink, and I forgot to tell you to paint white. So while I'm demoing what I did, just get your snowman white if you don't already have her white. My original piece I did a little different, but it's a little bit harder to do when you're when you have to be prepped. So painting it white is fine. We're going to add all the shading of the periwinkle, so you won't have to worry about it. But to give a snowman a snowy fuzzy look, you know how snow is? My original, I painted purple. Purple Petal, I painted it. And I took, and this is the best way to get a nice fluffy, I do it on a lot of my snowmen, but I do it on anything I want fluffy. So I'm going to take a stencil brush or a dry brush. I use the Stencil Pro, and I use it because it's very soft and it gives you a really great stencil or dry brush. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to load my brush. I load the whole brush. Okay, and I'm a few seconds delayed, so I'm a little bit ahead of you. I'm going to scrub. My brush is totally straight up and down. This brush is used dry. And I have just a scant amount of paint on there. So I went from this to this. Okay. My original piece, so this was painted purple. Just like this. And I'm going to come in with my brush straight up and down with a good amount of pressure. And I'm going to dry brush in circles clockwise and circles counterclockwise. I'm just going to keep going back and forth. Now, if you can see, it's a very light covering. So you can see a lot of purple. What I don't want you to do is this. Okay? If you put too much paint on there, what that does is it takes away the purple, it takes away the depth, and it takes away the fuzzy. So my first application of the color will be this. As I want to build the color, I just reload, scrub it off, and again, just add more. Clockwise, counterclockwise. I don't do all clockwise, then all counterclockwise. I'm clockwise, counterclockwise, clockwise, counterclockwise. There's no rhyme or reason. And I just keep building up my color. It might take me 4 or 5 times. Okay? The reason that I didn't do it in class is because it's a lot of touch-up time. So the answer to that is very simple. You can base coat it white, and if you want to bring a little bit of color and depth into it, you'll take your dry brush. I'm using a Stencil Pro as a dry brush. I'll pick up a little bit of purple on the brush, scrub it off, and really scrub it off till there's a scant amount of paint. So you see how little paint I have on there? And in the white, just very lightly, dry brush just a little bit of purple in there. And that'll give you what I have here. Now if you look closely, I have purple showing through. And that's what makes our snowman look fluffy. Okay? He looks like he has depth because he has a darker color behind us. Dark makes the item recede. Light brings it towards us. So he has that depth and he has that fuzziness. Okay. So you should be where I am right now. Whether you chose to paint yours white or you quickly did purple with the white, either way is fine. Okay, ready? Now we're going to create our depth. We need some periwinkle. Periwinkle is a bluish purple. I chose this because blues are cold colors, and it will give us the illusion of a nice cold winter day. But it'll kind of go with the purple also. Now, we're going to float. So you all know how to float, hopefully. And we're going to float all the way around the face. Now, dark makes the item recede. Light brings it towards us. So what I'm going to do when I do that, and I float around the edges, is I'm pulling the center of the face up and I'm pushing the sides down. So instead of having a flat snowball, I have a rounded snowball. So a quick float, wet, blot, corner load, just a little bit, blend in very short strokes. I don't want you to blend like this because you lose all the moisture in your brush. So very short strokes until you have a graduation of color. So you see how I went from this to this? That's what we want. We want a graduation of color. Now if you remember that dark makes the item recede and light brings it towards us, you'll remember where it is. So we want to push down the sides. Would help if I had a little more paint, huh? So the paint is going towards the outside of the face because we're rounding out the face. Let's try that. Okay. Now when you go from white to periwinkle or any darker color, it's a huge change. So you don't want to get too dark. So be sure to blend out your color on your scrap paper. Okay. So we're here. And we're just going to come around. We'll touch up, so I'm not overly concerned. And I thank you all for coming and hanging with me tonight. Just an FYI. These videos are on the library's Facebook page. So far, none of them have come down. So as long as the pandemic restrictions are in place and we're here, they are on the library's Facebook page. Okay? And the library has been wonderful to us, so. Okay. So we're here. And you see how I'm doing nice long strokes? So now, I just rounded out my snowball. I pulled the center of the face up. Now we're going to give that a minute to dry. Hi Janet, hi Rory. Hi you all. If anybody has any questions, ask me. I periodically check messages as I have time, so I'm happy to help you with whatever you need. Alright, so under the same premise, remember, we want to push elements down, we want to pull elements up. So my scarf is above my snowman. So I'm going to float underneath my scarf, but I'm on my snowman. So I'm pushing down my snowman and I'm pulling up my scarf. You see that? And if you need to use a mop, very lightly, I'm tapping straight up and down. I'm not pulling like this. I'm softening the color. I am not moving the color. Okay, that makes a difference. We're going to come under his little stick arm. And I didn't even paint this stick arm in yet because we make a mess with the heart, so it's just going to go on top anyway. So I'm going to come here. And this goes to here. Okay. Again, I want to pull up my stick arm. Now, something that's really important, excuse me, I'm going to come right in the crook of his arm here. Paint is towards his arm because remember why. We're putting dark there to pull the element up. Something that's very important is that if I floated from here to here and here to here to here, what happens is it looks like I'm outlining the piece. I don't want to look like I'm outlining the piece. I want to give it a bunch of dimension. So pushing down just part of it, only part of it is going further down. So it has more dimension because of that. Okay? Same thing in the interior of the branch. I'm going to come in. I'm just going to do some of it. Okay, now you can see I did some and not all. Okay, I'm going to come in. Now I want this float just a little bit wider than here. So you can do one of two things. Sorry, I have two heaters on. So it's very dry in here. You can bump to a bigger brush, or you can walk it out. I'm just going to bump to a bigger brush. And there is a 3/4 on your list. But we're going to load it exactly the same. So I wet, blot, load, blend. Okay? So I'm going to come outside the heart because I'm making a mess. Because again, remember, goodness gracious. Dark makes the item recede, light brings it up. Could see what a mess that made, huh? So, I would love to say I did that on purpose, but I didn't. A good lesson in that is if you make a mistake, you can take a paper towel, a wet paper towel. You can take a baby wipe. You can take a damp Q-tip and just pull it off. Okay, and I'm just coming in. And I'm here. Now I'll have to touch up these hearts. But you see, and I have to, I know it's upside down and sideways, but I have no choice or my hand will be in your way. And I'm here. Okay, I'll mop that a little. And then I'm going to show you how we make it look more dimensional. So I'm going to give that a second to dry. Okay. Now, I'm just taking a Q-tip and pulling some of this off. I'll touch it up with the paint quickly. I just don't want to spend a lot of time touching up tonight. I want to paint with you. Okay, so now the way to tell if your float is still wet is if you look on an angle, I can see it's shiny. If it's shiny, it's still wet. All right, and that makes a difference. So you can dry it, or you can just move on to another area. Okay. You can use a blow dryer because I can't hear it. If you're in a class, we generally don't use blow dryers because they're loud. So now I followed the elements that I'm pulling up. But it kind of looks like I've outlined them because I've gone in the exact shape. So to break that up, I'm going to float. I'm still in the periwinkle. I'm going to float part of the bottom. I'm here. And then I'm going to round it out. So you see how I lost that? When I'm here in this point, here, I'm going to round that out. So now I don't have a direct outline. Here, now, watch how wide I'm getting. Okay, I'm all the way to there because this is a deep area and my snowman is pretty deep underneath. So I'm going from here all the way to part of the pink heart. All right. And you do these floats so well that I thought those hearts on the original piece were so, aw, thank you, Jane. I have to tell you, somebody saw my post and said, what a wonderful idea. I have a whole bunch of hearts. And I said, oh, she thinks they're separate hearts. How wonderful. So I appreciate that. Thank you. So if you see how wide I'm going. Now, Diane, I saw yours and your float was to here. What that does is it gives us just a little bit of depth. But this is a big area that we're pushing down. So you have to go wider so that it pushes down further. Okay? So you see how wide my floats are? Okay? Now, I want to, now these should be drying. I'm not going to float over here because I want this side to go under, but I want my snowman to have more dimension. Oh, you're welcome, Linda. All right, so now, think of a snowman. We stick his eyes on. So we're going to float outside the eyes, towards the eye, so that when we paint the black, now if you paint inside, it's okay, you'll go over it in black. And I say that because lots of people do it. Now I have to wait for that to dry. So while that's drying, I'm going to come under the nose. Again, if you remember why we use the color we use, you'll remember where to put it. We're using the dark to recede. So we want the snowman pushed down and the element pulled up. In this case, the nose and the eyes. I am not going to give you floating outside the coal for his mouth, because what happens is it gets really blue. And I don't want you to get really blue. You're welcome, Diane. I wanted you to see it. Okay, so you should be dry enough. Now, I am dry enough because I can see there's no shine. If you were to float outside this eye, while this was still wet, you would pull it off. So that's why we kind of jump around while we're floating. And that's why I didn't float here when your edges were floated. Because what happens is you'd pull it off. So I'm here. Now, here's just a quick, Linda, what if I get too blue? Which people do. So if you get too blue, just take a dry brush with warm white and just dry brush some more white back in, and it'll pull out some of the blue. Okay? I don't find him too blue, but here, I'll do some just to say I'm too wide here. So I'll just come back in, and you see how I just shortened that? That's only if you get too blue. But that's a good way to learn how to fix something. Okay? Where do you find a list of the colors for this project? On the library website. Joanne, on the library website, under, oh, don't quote me, I think it's under events. It'll show it, and it'll show you all the colors. It'll show you all the brushes and everything else. Oh, thank you. Thank you, thank you. You're so sweet. Okay. So now you can see how the snowman is behind the hearts and is holding the hearts. Do you see that? Yes. Okay. So let's work here. I always work from the back forward. So I want to dry brush the cheeks before I base coat the nose, because then I don't have to redo it. So I'm going to take a little bit of watermelon slice. And again, I'm using a Stencil Pro, and it's a dry Stencil Pro. I use Stencil Pros for dry brushing. I use them for stenciling too, but I use them for dry brushing. And again, same thing as before. We're going to load, and we're going to scrub off until we have a scant amount. If you have a lot of paint on there, you're going to get a big polka dot. And I'm not into big polka dots. So with a pressure from 1 to 10 as a 1.5, I'm going to come in, I'm going to dry brush a circle just so that I have the shape, and then I'm back and forth. I am not doing this all the way because you'll create a nice little bullseye. Okay, that's the way to avoid that dot in the middle of your float, side to side. Okay, you can rinse out your brush. And now we can base coat. And we're going to base coat our nose. One coat. And then we'll move on so that we can have drying time. So I'm in Warm Sunset. And Warm Sunset is a really pretty orange. See that? It's a really pretty orange. If you don't have it, as with any time you paint with me, don't stress. Whatever colors you have will work. Okay, so I'm going to take a small brush, like a number 2 or number 4, and nice thin coat. We don't want lumps in our brush. And we're just going to come and I'm going to fill it in. I'll base it in. Now, I am known, my noses always have a curl on them, simply because I like it. So I'll come in with my liner. And a little more paint. And I'll give it its little curl. Do you have to have that? No. It's just a Linda thing. And Linda likes it that way. No Warm Sunset, so what? Is that a so what do you use, Shirley? You can use Spiced Pumpkin. Spiced Pumpkin is one of my favorites. You can use Persimmon, which I used to use a lot of. You can use Canyon Orange. You can use Jack-o'-lantern Orange. So a carrot can be any orange. This is just kind of a nice warm orange. Oh, good. Okay, good. All right. So we're going to give that a minute to dry while we're going. So remember what I said, I paint from the back out. So I'm going to start with this heart. I'm not going to do this heart yet because when I do these, I might have to touch this up. And I'm messy, so I don't want to have to worry. So we're going to start with this heart. Let me just grab the color, which I think... you think I'd be a little more organized, right? Shade the light heart. We're just going to make it up then. Watermelon slice. Now, remember what I said. We want to push it down. So, we're going to use watermelon slice, and we're going to float. Now, when you have an item that kind of comes like this, I don't want to go down this side and up this side. I want to go across. Let me move up a little bit. I want to go across. Okay, so the bottom of our hearts are not going to be down one side and up one side. They're side to side. So I'm only working on this one, which I should have touched up the top, but. I'm going to have to, in here. And when I'm floating, now look, I'm side to side. And I'll reinforce that. But you see that? I'm actually going to clean up those top edges. So when I was painting my periwinkle, you can see I got it on the top of my heart. What color am I floating with, Diane? I am floating on this one with watermelon slice. So it's just a simple touch-up. Now, we walked away from the nose simply because it wasn't dry. So, oh, that's not desert cactus. some Okay, one color. I have no idea what color it is. I sound a little flaky, don't I? Again, I have no idea what color it is. So, yes, I do. That's watermelon slice. Base coat. Oh, vintage pink. Okay. So, I pulled the wrong color. These hearts are vintage pink. Now, when you put it on, here's a good lesson for you. When you put it on, it'll look a little different than what's there when you're touching up. See how it looks a little different? But it'll dry the same color. But the other one was way off, so I knew it wasn't right. So I'll come in. And I'll come in. And that's all I have to touch up. Now, here is not as dark as here, but it will be because we'll reinforce it after we stencil. Okay. Now, we'll flip back over to your nose and just add another coat. And if you notice, I'm using thin multiple coats until I get an opaque coverage. I don't want to use blobs of paint. If you use blobs of paint, that's exactly how it's going to dry. And I always say you're not married to anything because we can fix anything. You're married to dried blobs of paint. I hate to say it that way, but it's true. Okay, so let's quickly touch up. This is watermelon slice, and this is watermelon slice. So we're going to touch up. And it's really just where the periwinkle was. Oh, you know what? We're going to do the red first. Okay. And I know it seems counterproductive or not good time management to do one, then one, then one, then one. But it is, because if you do here and you have to touch up here, then you got to start all over. So it's really good time management. Okay. So we're going to shade those. We're going to shade the red heart with Antique Maroon. So you need Antique Maroon. If you don't have the colors I have, you can substitute colors. Just think red, you need a darker value. Now, I'm going to show you something. Let me draw for you. Sometimes I do this and it looks like I don't know how to draw. So bear with me. So I have my heart here. And then I have a partial heart here. When you shade, the inclination to shade is to come outside the heart. Because, just like I told you, we're pushing it down. Okay? And what happens is that looks like, I always say, like you're lining it. So, what you have to remember is that underneath here is the rest of the heart. So we should be shading in this shape. So if we come in and we shade, and we shade in this shape, watch the difference. And I'm coming side to side. Now, I've shaded the shape, not an outline, okay? I'm following this shape because this is still there even though we don't see it. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to take Antique Maroon, and that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to shade in the shape. Now you'll probably get messy here because you have to remember to come up to the shape. Now if that doesn't make sense to anybody, please tell me and I'll go through it again. I don't have a problem doing that. I'm happy to go through it a whole bunch of times if you need me to. Right? It's all about creating depth, and creating depth is staying true to the shape of the element. The shape of the element is the whole shape, not part of the shape. And I'm going side to side. Okay? And I'm mopping. Now, if you're uncomfortable going around your heart and doing it, let me just grab my other page. It's okay because you can touch up, and I've had people do it. It's okay to shade like this and then come in and touch this up. Okay? That's why we work from the bottom up. It's okay to do that. If you're more comfortable getting your shape correct this way, do that. That's fine. That's not a problem. Okay, one more time. When you're shading, you're always shading the bottom element in the shape of the bottom element. So you're here, this shape is here, you're side to side, all the way across, but in this shape, not outlining. I don't know if that makes sense, Christina. So you just got to let me know if it doesn't. It's follow the shape of the element. Don't outline. Okay? And we'll do it again. Probably won't. Okay, so if you need to, like I said, do this. Okay? And that gives up me, I'm really pushing that element down. Right, so I'm going to quickly touch this up. My nose is good. If you need another coat, just plop it on there. This heart is watermelon slice. So and if you notice, I don't have to touch up the whole thing. I only have to touch up where I made a mess. And anybody will tell you, and don't anybody go type in the comments, yes, she's right, but I make a mess all the time. Hence the reason I do things the way I do them. Because I am quite a messy painter. Not that you would know from the finished product, but I am a messy painter. Okay. So while that's drying, let's go to the nose. We need deep burgundy, which we're going to use in a minute. I'm so happy you're all here with me tonight. I'm very lucky I get to bring all this to you. And we're going to float on the bottom of the nose in deep burgundy. My paint is towards the bottom, but it's on the nose so that we're pushing the nose down. I come a little bit along the back, and then I'm right on the bottom. There is no space. It is touching the bottom. I stop about here, and that's because if I go up here, I'm going to make my nose burgundy, and I don't want to. Okay? Okay. So, let's dry for a second. This heart should be pretty dry. Because we're going to work in deep burgundy. And you can see, I'm working from back forward. Okay. You can dry as you're going. You can bump to another section. At the end of class, I'll show you what's next. I'll show you what we're doing in our beginner class at the end of this month, and I'll show you what we're doing next year. Alright, so we're going to be in deep burgundy. And we're going to float the bottom here. And again, there's a heart underneath here. So we're here, but we're wide, and we're across, and we're rounding out. We're not just outlining with a float. Okay? We will get darker. We'll get darker after we put the stencil on. We'll float it again, but we'll have to be just a little bit more careful. Now, here we have our hat and we have our pom-pom. We want, here's, let me turn it this way so you can see it. Here's my hat band. Here's the part that goes on your head, and here's the pom-pom. The hat band would come over the hat, and the pom-pom would go under the hat because it's at the top of your head. So we're still in deep burgundy, and we're going to come in, and we're going to float the bottom of the hat band. And we're going to float the bottom of the pom-pom. Now, you can do it straight across. I kind of just wiggle it so that it gives it more interest. Round out these corners. Okay? Because it's a round hat band. Now you're going to come in. And I know we're jumping because we have to. And we're going to take just a little bit of cad yellow. And you really need just a little tiny bit of cad yellow. And we're going to highlight. Okay, so when you float with a darker color, you're shading. When you float with a lighter color, you're highlighting. So my middle value is my warm sunset. My shading color is deep burgundy. And my highlight color is cad yellow. So we're going to float on the nose, on the top of the nose, cad yellow. And look at how dimensional we just made that nose look. That's a fabulous nose, if I do say so myself. Okay. Now, on my hat, again, to not look outlined, I want to round out these corners. So I'm going to float a little bit of deep burgundy. It's a lot of floating on this piece. It's a lot of floating in all my pieces. I'll just round that out. And we'll round out here. Okay. And our paint is towards the corner. And it gives it a much different look. Nobody's had any questions. Does anybody have any questions? Okay. So now we're going to go down to this heart, which we probably could have done at the same time because it's not touching. And we're in Antique Maroon. And we're going to float. Oh, let's touch it up. This heart, who knows what heart it is? You all think I know what I'm doing, don't you? I'm really good at making it look that way. Tomato red. I have to tell you, I'll tell you a funny story. And it's just a simple. When I paint, I do my design, and then I'll write instructions so that everybody has, and I can teach any of my designs without even thinking about it. But I have found over the years that people kind of like the exact same color that I do. So that's where I lose my thought process. Because I would just pick another color. It wouldn't bother me. But I know it bothers other people. So I do it. But that's where the difference is. Okay. That's what I keep looking for. It's just the coloring. Because I would just say, pick a red. I'm good at that. Let me just dry this. And remember, you can see if it's shiny, it's still wet. And we're good. Okay, so now we can float the bottom of this heart. We are in Antique Maroon, which is the darkest. Ooh, that's a dirty brush. And it's side to side. It's not down one side and up the other. I almost think of a runway. I come down the side just to get my brush started, and then I'm side to side. I am not having the best flow in it, that's for sure. But we won't tell anybody. That's better. Okay. Now, I know that we have to pull this heart up and push this heart down. But this has to be dry before I do that. So we have to give it a second to dry. While it's drying, we're going to come in. That's better. And we're going to put some creases in the nose. Because carrots have creases. So, what you're going to do is you're going to take your liner and you're going to go in deep burgundy. Now, always follow the shape of the element you're working on. So in this case, our creases are going to follow the back of the nose. You're not going to have straight creases because the carrot is not straight. That's a really important thing to keep, and that'll help you with your dimension. So I'm going to pull from the bottom of the nose. Now, your creases can go from the top, from the bottom, or in the middle. It doesn't matter. And I kind of mix it up. So you see how I'm curving just a bit? And I kind of, okay? So you see that? That's how you do it. Oh, thank you, Kathy. All right, Milana. I use a Dynasty Series 400 Decorator Series mop. It's stiff enough, but it's not stiff, if that makes any sense. If you have, okay, so here, I'm going to show you this. I have this mop, and it's very soft. If you use something like this, I use this to brush my glitter. But if you use this to mop your piece, because it's so soft, your paint is going to go everywhere. You're not going to be able to soften your float. So you need something that's stiff enough, but not stiff like a stencil brush. You don't want to mop with something that's hard. So this is the perfect one. Okay. So we got that in there. Now this is dry. So we're going to come in and we're going to float right up against that heart. We're in Antique Maroon. And if your paint is a little bit hard to float because it's been sitting out, just grab yourself some new paint in here. And again, I don't want to look like I'm lining. That's the trick to dimension. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to round out here because my heart goes like this. So I'm following what you can't see. Okay? Creating dimension correctly is not only where you put it, but it's following the shape that you're doing. That's super important. Okay? So my heart is still here. So I still have to float like this. I don't know if you can see. Let me see. Oh, you can. Okay. All right, so that's really important. Now I'm going to touch up this one. Our hearts are starting to pop, aren't they? They look so pretty. All right, this is Vintage Pink. And while I'm at it, I'm going to touch up my hatband. Pass them out. I'll do a quick touch up. And I told you. No, that's the right color. That's not the right color. Well, this is what color it's going to be now. What was that color? Oh, totally wrong color. Coral blush. I'm not even in the right family. I told you. That's what I use my instructions for color. Thanks, Dolores. I'm like, it looked like pink to me. Ah, so much better. Means I just base coated the top of the other one the wrong color. We'll do the whole thing because I messed up. My scarf and my hat is Vintage Pink. One would hope. There you go. And I'm just going to touch this up. Touch up here. It's all about not knowing my colors, that's all. Because like I told you, I would just kind of do whatever. Okay. Now, you can see these are starting to come to life. And that's all about us playing with our colors. Our darks are making our items recede, our lights are bringing it towards us. So, while this is drying, let's paint some eyes. That's what we'll do. So we're going to take lamp black. Okay. And we're going to take a liner. Now, when I paint my eyes, my brush is straight up and down, and I make sure my hand's not in the way. I line my eye, I'll line my eye, and then what I do is I squint so I can see if they're the same size, not the same shape. Okay. When I pull my eyelashes, I follow the shape of my eye. So I'm pulling up, and I'm pulling right from the side. It's a little bit thicker than I want, but if you hold your, oh, it's got red on it. If you use just the tip of your brush and light pressure, you'll get a nice thin eyelash. And then I'll come in, and you can use that brush or you can use a thicker brush. I'm going to use my rigger, and I'm just going to fill in. And if you're painting along with me, which of course I hope you are, you can post your finished pieces. You can tag me. You can put them on the library Facebook page. I love to see what everybody paints. It just makes me so happy. Then we're going to give them a little coal mouth. And when you do coal, you're not making polka dots again. You're just kind of smudging shapes. So see what I'm doing? I'm just kind of scrubbing in a shape. That's all I'm doing. Okay. And then we can go back to the heart that I made such a mess out of. And we need watermelon slice. So you see how I can just keep going? Because I don't have to stop. I'll just move to somewhere else while it's wet. So if you need more watermelon slice, grab some watermelon slice. And we're going to float the bottom. Let me see, is the light okay? Move this a little bit. Maybe that'll help. Okay. We're going to float the bottom of this heart. Remember, I have a little bit of a runway. Then I'm side to side. Look how beautiful that looks. I have to tell you. And I know what you're all going to say. They're all your favorite colors, Linda. This is one of my favorite colors. I do have very distinct colors that I use all the time. Look at how pretty that looks. Now, you can see the hearts are on top of each other. Okay? And we did that because we shaded. And shading pushed the item down. When we highlight, we'll pull it up. Okay? Now, let me just check. I say watermelon slice. But let me check before you're all ready to kill me. Oh, yay, watermelon slice. Okay. So, let's shade the bottom of the scarf in watermelon slice. We're in the same color. So we're going to come right across. And we've already touched up here. And if you see, I'm one long stroke. I'm not doing choppy strokes. You don't want choppy strokes. We're also going to shade what color. Oh, Shirley, you have to tell me what you're on as to what color you want. Right now I'm working in watermelon slice, but you're delayed from me, so I'm not sure. This is watermelon slice, this is watermelon slice. I'm going to do here watermelon slice. So I'm thinking that's what you want. And we're going to shade the bottom of the hat. Now, for anybody who didn't see this before, of course you can paint it on anything. I know some of you are being very creative. Dolores is painting it on canvas. She's painting it on canvas. So I'm very anxious to see how it looks. But if you want this wood cutout, Pinecraft, it's pinecraftinc.com. They sell the cutout. And I'm not trying to sell you anything because it matters not to me. I'm fading out. I'm sorry. The scarf, you're shading watermelon slice. I don't know why I'm fading. Okay. Now, you should be dry. So what I want is I want my scarf to wrap around. So I'm going to shade the left side and the right side. So my brush, my paint is towards the edge. That's one side. I'm going to push it under the heart here. And if I get it here, I'm just going to take the clean side of my brush and I'm going to wipe off the mess I make, which I do. Okay. I'm going to do the same thing with my hat band. I'm going to shade the left side. And I'm going to shade the right side. And FYI, if I get all messed up with left and right, just follow what I'm doing because I have a mental block with left and right. And if you notice when I float, all of my bristles are on all of the surface all the time. I'm not lifting the clean edge of my brush. That will defeat the fact, the purpose of having the graduation of color. Okay. Y'all where I am? The minute you fade it out, all is... Ah, see? When Chef Rob came on, that's why I faded out. And it's so funny because Chef Rob and I never usually, he's fabulous. Don't go running there. But we really don't overlap. Stay here with me. Okay? All right. So, let's create... Okay. Let's do this. Let's create our ribbing. I have a lot of fun with ribbing. We're going to take our liner and our deep burgundy and we're going to make our big sections. Now remember, the shape is with the side of the hat. So here and here. Always thin your paint when you're using your liner. I'm curved a bit. I'm curved a bit. Do me a big favor. Do not look at my piece and count the sections. Don't count how many I'm doing. Just do what fits in your piece. And now I'm starting to curve this way. Okay. That's right, they can go see him later. He's going to say, Linda, don't be mean. But we need Joel here with me. And besides, don't tell anybody, but painting's a lot more fun than cooking. And Emily, if you left, we're going to have a problem. Okay. Now, let me just get the right color. Okay, cactus flower and warm white. I'm just going to dirty brush between the two. I'm going to create the ribbing. And then we're going to highlight because we're going slower than I want. But I'll show you how we'll fix that. We're not really going slower. So we're just going to dirty brush between the two. And when I say dirty brush, I mean we're going to pick up some pink. We're going to pick up some white. Nothing more than that. We're going to create, in the middle of each section, we're going to create a line. Now, what this is going to do is it's going to give us either side of our weaving, our knit. That's a better word, right? Okay. Now, when you make your knit, it's just a quick stroke. Don't overthink it. Okay? I have paint on my brush. I have a good amount of paint on my brush, so it's a heavier load. And I'm going to pressure and up, pressure and up. It should go the whole section. Pressure and up, pressure and up. They don't meet in the middle. I'm a little anal about that. Pressure and up, pressure and up, pressure and up. Okay. Dirty brush, pressure and up. See how I'm on the diagonal? And you can go, if you're more comfortable. And when you do, okay, so let me have two thoughts. You can go all the way down one side and then the other. It doesn't matter. Or you can go left to right. See how when I put pressure, I have a heavier stroke and then I get thinner. Paint first. That's right. A dirty brush of cactus flower and warm white, Stephanie. You weren't being mean, but anybody who knows me knows I hate to cook. So, I always say, what else is there to do? Painting. We have to paint, paint, paint. Although Emily, I know, does both. She loves to cook. She loves to paint. And we're going to have to make sure she stays with painting. I didn't know he was scheduled at the same time. It's rare. Okay. So you see how I'm just, do not fuss over it. Do not make a big to-do over it. And I'll tell you why. Because if, oop, that's too white. If you overthink it, it will look like caca. Okay? When you overthink it, you get very distinct strokes that don't look like don't look like fibers or knit. Knit, that's a good one. I paint, I don't sew either. So, you don't want it to look, and you see, I'm just bing, bang, boom. See how fast I'm doing this? I'm not even thinking about it. Okay? Okay. What is cactus flower? Liz, cactus flower is a color. It's a beautiful color. Yeah, it's this pink. It's cactus flower. It's a pretty color, isn't it? It was DecoArt's one of their new colors last year or the year before. If you don't have it, you can use bubblegum. You can use whatever color you painted. Okay, so there's my weave. It's not a big time consuming or anything like that. All right, so we got to move along. All right, so we got that done. Let's stroke some of our fringe here. That's with a liner, and we're going to stroke it in Antique Maroon. And think of, we're coming from the bottom, and we're stroking, and we're following the shape. Can you see that? Hopefully. And then you're going to clean your brush, take a little bit of cactus flower. This is going to be Liz's new favorite color. I'm going to get her to love this color. And you're going to stroke some of the pom-pom in. Okay. Whoop, not like that. It's because I'm rushing. one of the things, anybody who knows me, very anal about finishing. Now, right now the pom-pom looks a little weird because we don't have it set in, but we will. So, don't worry about it. You're welcome. Whenever the library goes live. Alright, well, no cooking for you, Jane. Okay, while that's drying, and I know it looks weird, but it's supposed to. You're going to float a little bit of white on the edge of the eye. I don't care if you do right edge or left edge, but make sure it matches. You want to do the same. This is left or right. Don't do outsides or insides. You want them to, otherwise they look cross-eyed. Alright, so let's come in and let's dry brush. Now you can dry brush or you can float, but we're going to, let's stencil first. Take your stencil, whatever stencil you want. This happens to be one of my favorites. I'm going to take my stencil brush, lay your stencil. Now some people tape them on. I'm not a big taper. Cactus flower, tipped in warm white. See how I pulled them both on the brush? I'm going to scrub it off. And clockwise, counterclockwise, clockwise, counterclockwise. Just be careful you don't get it on your other elements, or else you just have to get it off right away. I'm going across all of them. And I'll lift. See how pretty that is? This, honestly, this is one of my very favorite stencils. I love this stencil. As you can tell, I use it a lot. And don't tell Miss Tracy whose stencil it is. I'm really bad at washing my stencils. That's the truth. Oh, thank you, Jane. So glad you're listening. Put you in charge of comments. Okay. So now I want to come in and I want to dry brush a little. Oh, let me just see if I gave you a Mezza Luna. Otherwise I'll get in trouble. Oh, I did. Yippee. Okay. So, with your Mezza Luna, we're going to dry brush some of our highlights on. So, here, we're going to take Cactus Flower. Now, when you use this brush, you load and you pinch. And we're just going to dry brush some at the top. I'm going to dry brush here. And I'm just kind of doing little circles. I'm going to dry brush here. I'm going to dry brush on the top of, like that, on the top of the red hearts. And I'm on the side of the brush. This brush is very versatile. I use it for a lot of things. Okay, that's better. The top of the red hearts. And I want the design on there, so don't. And on the top of the watermelon slice heart. Now, this is one of the rare dry brushes that we can wash and clean. Yes, Dolores. If you're painting this and you're not on a cutout, have your pom-pom fringes come further. Now, this is one of the brushes you can... is that a Dynasty rigger you used for the knit pattern? I used a rigger, yes. If you're uncomfortable using a rigger because it's thicker, you can use a liner and heavy load it. But yes. Okay, so now we're going to use warm white. And we're going to dry brush the top of the light pink hearts. Remember, load and pinch. I'm going to dry brush here. Now, if you wanted to float these, I know how much you all love floating. You could float these. Okay, and you can, like I said, clean this brush and then pinch it. You pinch it dry. Now, what you'll do now is you'll load and you'll pinch. Using the brush straight up and down, you're going to dry brush the center of the scarf. And you're going to leave, see those lines? I want those lines in there. That's why I use this brush. Stephanie, I don't know same color for what, so you gotta just tell me. Okay? And if you're using it straight up and down, you'll get those lines. If you're using it on the side, you'll get a softer blend. Okay? Let's get a coat of burnt umber on both hands. And then while that's drying, we'll do the other stuff. I don't know why we're moving slower tonight. Or it's just a lot. Okay. Just get a coat on. We'll probably have to do 2. Now don't forget his little hand over here so he's holding the other side. And we're here. I'm sorry, I have not had time to look at comments. Hearts and scarf. The hearts, the dry brush on this one, and this one is cactus flower and warm white dirty brush, and this one and this one and this one is just warm white. And we're here. And then I'm going to come, and I know you have it on your pattern, so I have one arm here and I have one hand kind of here. Now this is going to need another coat. So I'm just going to put that. Okay, so while that's drying for a minute, the pom-pom has to push down. Watch what this is going to do. I'm going to take, I need new antique Maroon. And like I said, it's dry and warm in my studio. So my paint keeps drying. If your paint is not dry, use what you have. What brush is that for dry brushing? The brush that I used for what I just did is Mezza Luna. Dynasty Mezza Luna. And it's a fabulous brush. I'm going to come and watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to now push the fringes of my pom-pom under my hat. And when I do that, that'll change my whole hat. See that? Okay. Now, optionally, you can come in and refloat the bottoms and the separations. I want to do the arms. Now, if you're fine with them, that's fine. But if you want to just come in and reinforce in the same colors, that's fine. But I want to get the hands done because I don't want you to not have these beautiful hands, arms, branches, sticks. I'm a walking dictionary tonight. Shirley Antique Maroon. On the bottom of the pom-pom is Antique Maroon. And the paint is down towards the hat cuff. And for anybody who paints with me at the library in person, I know we haven't been together for a while, but here's a lesson to anybody who doesn't paint with me at the library. This is exactly what I do at the library. I'm good, and I pace, and I give everybody everything they need, and then I'm watching the clock because I have to. And I say, okay, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. We got to get done. Do this, do this. So this is no different than being at the library and being in person. And all of you who paint with me in the library, in real life, know that's true. And you're probably sitting there laughing because it is what I do. I am one of these anal people who like to finish. I don't like to send anybody home with things not done. So like the last 20 minutes or 25 minutes, I'm like, okay, do this, do this, do this. I do that. I do that all the time. Stephanie, am I telling the truth? I am absolutely telling the truth. And you're probably sitting there laughing because it's true. Rosie, it's on my Etsy shop. My Etsy shop is Linda O'Connell Designs with no space. And for anybody who's gone over there today, I put a wood blank up, and none of you are going to know what it is. But it's for the online convention. So, I'll post it tomorrow, but just so you know. I know I've already gotten 2 messages. Alright, so my branches are in. Let me just check the color. Okay. So, you might want to come in, like I said, and reinforce some of the shading. You don't have to, because I can still see everything. This one I'm fine with. I might reinforce just this one, because it wasn't dark enough. So then I'll come in. You're welcome. I know, Deb, Stephanie, you're all laughing at me, right? Because you know that's how I get at the library. I know, you're all sitting home saying, I wish that I was at the library and she was rushing us. I know. I have to tell you, I'm torn both ways because I kind of love being with everybody here and I miss everybody there so much. We've been out of there next month. Well, next class, which is the end of February, which I'll show you, that will be a year of classes we've been out of the library. So sad. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to my Mezza Luna, and I'm going to take burnt umber, and I'm going to add warm white. So I just picked up both. I'm pinching off, pinching a dry area, and I'm just going to dry brush a little bit in the center of the arms. If it gets too white, add more burnt umber to it, which mine did. So see, if you look at mine up close, it's chalky. Okay? We don't want it to be chalky. So to get rid of that, look, if I just put burnt umber, dry brush burnt umber right over it, I took that chalkiness out. And I'll come in here and I'll do that. And now we have, oh, we need a smudge in the eye. When you have your shine in the eye, people tend to think, oh, we need a sparkle and it needs to be a dot. They're not dots. Look at a picture, look at somebody's eye when you're looking at them. And Janet, message me and we'll talk about brushes. I'm not really sure which brush you're looking for. So message me and we'll talk about it. So when you have white, or when you have a shine, I'm using a rigger. I always use a rigger. But I'm a rigger person. If you don't have one or you're not comfortable using it yet, use a liner. A liner will be just fine. Come in and look. I'm not making a dot. I'm not using a stylus. I literally smudge. There's too much water in that. Okay, let's try this. Smudge. Look. Wiggle. Smudge. So look at those up close. I know you're a minute behind me. Not a minute, but a couple seconds. I want you to see these. So you're going to look at them for longer than you should. Come on. Come on. Oh, there you go. You see how they're not a dot? They're a smudge. Okay? That's what I want. I'm sorry it's off camera. Oh, poor Snowman lost a finger. Oh, you guys are just having a grand old time with me tonight, aren't you? All right, so there's your beautiful Snowman. I hope you love him. I hope you love him. Okay, so I'm going to show you what's next. My beginner class on, I wrote down the dates. It's really good tonight. February 25th. We're back to Thursdays and Mondays. Beginner classes are Thursdays. Mondays are intermediate. This is our beginner class. Isn't that pretty? Because it's before St. Patrick's Day. So this is our beginner class. Thank you, Rosie. This is our beginner class on February 25th, 7 o'clock. Let's see. I know it's not off. No highlight on the coal. No, because it's too small. If you want to put a highlight on the coal, just do it with a liner. And then our next class for our intermediate class for March is March 15th. Ready, set, go. Ready? I love this piece. It's another really cute piece. This is where I get my cute fix. I get my cute fix with my library classes. Okay, wait. Come on, come on. Oh, look at how cute he is. And he's on camera. I'm not doing really good with the camera tonight, am I? So he's March 15th. Okay? The library has this. They probably put it up on their website. I'm working on April and May, which my boss at the library will be so happy. Okay? So I'm going to flip the camera around. I'm going to say goodnight. You can see my terrible hair day. Flip. Oh, there I am. Okay, so if you have any questions, please, please, please message me or comment on the library's video. I guess that's it. All right, so